All right, seniors, I'm back here with our second Thomas Hardy video. This one called The Workbox. Okay, our second Thomas Hardy poem, a lecture note video called The Workbox. Now, I've taught this one multiple times in my AP classes, and they tend to like it. I think this is a really cool poem. It's a lot more of a narrative poem than a really strong theme-based poem like our last one, the Ah, Are You Digging on My Grave? This one's a little bit more of a story, but man, it really, to me, captures some really cool stuff in it. Now, by the way, I've never done any research on this or even the last poem we did. It's just kind of giving you my impression. So, one of the things about doing these videos and what I'm going to do next year is try to reshoot these with some better, excuse me, man, with some better notes and a better camera and just some better presentation. Is I would love to be able to put these on a site that people besides my students can use and maybe get some other views of some of these because my view of this poem may not be exactly what Thomas Hardy was going with. I'm going on what I got out of it. All right. But really, guys, with poetry, that's what you have to do. It's one of the things I want you guys to learn. I've gotten so many emails from you guys about how you couldn't do this if I hadn't given you the videos and you can't understand them. I want to tell you that's wrong. You can. This stuff is not that difficult. You just have to realize that there's two different ways to approach a poem. One is that there's a message, there's a meaning there that I have to figure out like it's a puzzle, which if that's the way you approach it, then yes, you're going to struggle usually. The second one is to read it and wonder what I personally can get out of this and see what you can figure out and what it makes you think about, what kind of memories it brings back, what kind of associations you make, just what anything you can pull out of it is. The second way is the way you want to read a poem, and that's more about, from a personal angle. Now, yes, I realize, if you have a test in a class, then you're going to have to get what that teacher says, but usually they're going to give you some sort of discussion to let you know that. But that's not where you want to start. You don't want to start like, what's the meaning here? You want to start with, what do I notice about this? What does it make me think? And that's just part of knowing how we think. And that's something that I really want to I want to encourage you guys to do. All right, enough rambling. Let's get started on the workbox. All right, you're going to see it's kind of got a same meter and rhyme scheme. I don't think it's the same, but it kind of feels really similar to the last poem we read. All right. In fact, I know it's not the same because this one's a little bit more structured, to be honest with you. So see, here's the workbox, little wife, that I made of polished oak. He was a joiner of village life. She came of borough folk. So very simplistic A B rhyme scheme, set in quatrains. Really the most simple form of writing. But you know what? Personally, and I know this is kind of not the teacherly thing to say, I really like poems like this. The simplicity kind of betrays the deeper meaning, and I think it's kind of neat to see it. Remember also, the more structured a poem is, the harder it is to write. All right, so we start off. We got two people, two characters in here. We've got a man and his wife. All right, we've got the difference between these two people, which is something that is harped on in. We see it show up in fables like the country mouse and the city mouse. We see it show up in in prose and stories. We see it show up in poetry all the time. But you've got the husband is a joiner, which is like kind of like it's a specific area of carpentry, if I remember right, who is from the country. And then you've got a woman, it says of borough folk. She's from the town. She's from a city. So we've got the city versus the country person here. All right. Really common distinction to make. Okay. So what's happened is he's giving his wife a work box, kind of like a sewing box, a place for her to keep stuff like that. Thus the title. Now remember, titles matter. So we know there's something special about this work box. So he holds the present up to her as with a smile she nears and answers to the profferer, "'Twill last all my sewing years." So immediately she loves it. She says, this is going to last the rest of, it's very well put together. She says it will last all of my sewing years, and she's very excited to receive this gift. I warrant, and this is him speaking, he says, I warrant it will, and longer too. 'Tis a scantling that I got off poor John Wayward's coffin, who died of they knew not what. Wow, well that just took a dark turn. I mean, he just told her, I'm sure it will last a long time. It's from the leftovers from the coffin of a man that was made recently, a guy named John Wayward. And don't think that his name doesn't have significance, by the way. But he's like, his coffin should last a long time, so it should last you a long time as a work box too. Now, guys watching this, If you were to, if you're a handy person and you make something for your girlfriend or wife, telling her you got the wood from a coffin is just not a really good idea. It definitely sends a really dark, this was a great present to, oh, this is creepy now. Now, why would he tell her that? Is this guy an idiot? No, and the guy's name is a hint. John Wayward. This is the guy whose coffin it came off of, not our speaker. The term wayward means to wander from someone, all right? To be away from where you're supposed to be. So we get our first hint here. We're going to get more in a minute, all right? But just store that one in your head. He goes on, and it's not just that he mentions that it came from this coffin. Look at this next stanza, how he talks more about it. It's very morbid. As the shingle pattern that seems to cease against your box's rim continues right on in the piece that's underground with him. Ugh. Look at how he says, the design that's on your box, where it stops, it picks up on the coffin buried with this dead man. And again, like if this is me, if I'm this woman, I'm not so excited about this gift at this point. Now, probably the key stanza in here, if you do want to try to pull a message from this, is this next one. It says, and while I worked, it made me think of timber's very doom. 1 inch where people eat and drink, the next inch in a tomb. He says, while I'm doing this, it made me think about, these materials I'm using, this wood, how sometimes it's used to make a table where people eat and their life occurs, your family time. But also it can be used to make a tomb. All right. Now, I'm going to be an English teacher here for a second. I'll tell you, if we want to dig for theme, that's probably the stanza I would go to. It basically lets you know that the materials we have, and if we look at it literally, materials like wood or concrete or stuff like that can be used for life-affirming things like a table, a dinner table, or they can be used for much more somber things like a tomb. But we could apply this to other things, not just other materials. We could use it to apply to words. Think about how a lot of the things we say can be made to build people up, but yet a lot of things we say can really destroy people too. So I don't think that's what Thomas Hardy was doing when he wrote this. I think he wrote it because he had a clever story to tell. But I do think you can still make meaning even if an author didn't intend for it to have that particular meaning. The statement I made is not wrong. Still, our words do have that power. You guys do not realize how important your words can be to heal or to hurt. And I think that that's definitely something that we could do a spin-off here and discuss. If we were in class, we would. But you guys don't. That's not one of the questions beyond asking you about that stanza. So, hey, you just want me to finish, I bet. So let me tell you the rest of this because there's more. He says, but why do you look so white, my dear, and turn aside your face? You knew not that good lad, I fear, though he came from your native place. All right, there's a twist. A couple of them, actually. The woman all of a sudden turns pale. Well, Mr. Moore, she's turning pale because she just realized that her gift that she was given by her loving husband came from a tomb. Maybe. But he kind of indicates that, I don't know why you look so sad. I mean, you don't know this guy, even though he comes from where you're from. And there's a little hint as to what happened in this poem. She says, how could I know that good young man, though he came from my native town, when he must have left there earlier than I was a woman grown? So the wife's saying, oh, yeah, there's no way I knew him. He's older than me. I mean, he must have been there when I was gone, and I have no connection to this man. And she throws that out there really quick and, kind of seems a little hasty, to be honest with you. And so the husband speaking again. And guys, you have to realize with poems like this, I know a lot of you get confused. Each stanza is a different person speaking, okay? So just relax. Don't panic. You can follow it. And there should be clues to let you know who's speaking, all right? He says, ah, no, I should have understood. It shocked you that I gave to you one end of a piece of wood whose other is in a grave. So then he again highlights where this came from. He's like, oh, I get it. You're white because I gave you a box made from a coffin. Oh, I'm sorry. And she says, don't, dear, despise my intellect. Mere accidental things of that sort never have effect on my imaginings. And she's like, oh, don't be silly. That's stupid. That's not something that bothers me. But then the last stanza, look at this. It says, yet still her lips were limp and wan, her face still held aside, as if she had known not only John, but known of what he died. So then you get this image at the end that she's pale, and she's definitely, this is impacting her. And it says as she turns away, her face betrays that not only did she probably know this guy, but she knows what killed him too. And so the question, and this is where, again, I didn't do any research, so maybe you find a different answer than me. Maybe you find an answer where Thomas Hardy said, this is exactly what I mean. But when I read this, what I get is her husband killed this guy. Because he seems way too knowledgeable about this, and this seems like the sort of revenge type of thing I could see a man doing. Like, oh, you sleep with me, or you slept around on me, that guy you liked so much, yeah, I'm gonna kill him and then make a box out of his coffin to give to you as a reminder. Don't cheat on me again. Pretty scary. Yeah, this woman should get far away from this man. But it does seem to be that, in my opinion, because of how it ends, that's what he's suggesting is that. Now, when we talked about it in AP, I've had kids suggest, well, no, maybe she just knew him and knew he died, and maybe once upon a time she had a crush on him or something. And yeah, I get that, but it just seems, and this is where you have to start, like, not only coming up with theories, but defending your theories. And the fact that this man is going so out of his way to like harp on where this box came from seems to me that he has knowledge about what happened between the two of them, and that maybe he didn't kill him. Maybe the guy just died and he just said, hey, can I have this scrap wood? But it just comes off to me like it's a better story if this man did it. Okay, poetry leaves a lot more ambiguity than short stories do. So a lot of it you have to kind of fill in the blanks, but that's part of the process here. Reading prose is often a very passive experience. You read it and all the details are provided for you. Yeah, you have to picture things in your head, but really you don't have to supply anything. Poetry, on the other hand, leaves a lot to the imagination, not just the imagery, but the actual occurrences, and it wants you to think about it, and that makes you an active participant in the reading. This is why I like poetry better. It's not because I love flowery, goofy sounding love poetry. It's because I like the fact that I get to participate in making the meaning. And then I get to come up with what I think it means and the theme. And then whether I'm right or wrong, it still had made me think about these concepts. And that's kind of the key here, right? Literature is meant to there should be a discussion. And if you can't have a physical discussion, what it should have is a discussion up here where you think about things. All right. I couldn't tell you the number of books I've read where I finished and I was like, oh, that's a good book. And I put it away, the end. But I could list dozens of poems I've read that I've immediately copied and sent to, some of my former students who were, big into literature, or to somebody else I know who I think might like this, and carried on a conversation about it. And that's really the key to these. I know most of you watching this probably do not like poetry, but I really want you to understand that it's a lot more than just this highbrow entertainment that's intended just for college professors and, bored English teachers. There's more to it. And it targets a different part of our brains. So I hope you enjoyed these two. We've got two more poems left before you're finished with me for the year. They're A.E. Housman poems. And to be honest with you, I think there's going to be two more. I know for sure there's one that I love, and I've got to try to find another one of his I like. Your book has one that I don't. So just like your book had the first Thomas Hardy poem, it did not include the workbox. I went and found it because I love talking about this one. So anyway, that will end the Thomas Hardy assignment. You have 5 questions. I'll hold up 2 5s because there's 5 for each, so 10 questions total from Thomas Hardy. If you'll complete those and get them to me by the due date, I would appreciate it. And later this week, I will have the last video you're going to get from me, the last set of videos on A.E. Housman. I probably will not do them today, but they will be produced and out there soon, okay? Should be Wednesday is the goal. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your watching this. I hope you enjoyed both of these poems, but if not the first one, I hope you enjoyed the second one. All right, you guys, good luck on the questions. Don't hesitate to ask for help. All right, take care.